call this meeting to order, and please call roll.
Peggy.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Aaron. Here. Carl.
Yes.
Quorum being present, we will go ahead. And is there a motion to accept the August 18th, or August meeting minutes, the regular meeting?
I'll make the motion.
There were no additions or corrections, no one found a problem with the minutes, correct? There's a motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Peggy. Yes. Luther.
Yes.
Aaron. Yes. Carl.
Yes.
All right. Has everyone had time to look at the warrants and timesheets? Chair will entertain a motion to approve warrants and payroll timesheets.
Motion made. Second.
Peggy. Yes. Luther.
Yes.
Aaron. Yes. Carl.
Yes.
We have a motion to approve transferring the interest to the respective funds.
Motion made. Second.
Peggy. Yes. Luther.
Yes.
Aaron. Yes. Carl.
Yes.
Is there a motion to transfer from the general fund to the police operating fund the normal monthly transfer amount?
Motion made.
Second. Peggy. Yes. Luther.
Yes.
Aaron. Yes. Carl.
Yes.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the transfer of grant matching funds from, excuse me, the general fund to the street department fund.
Motion made.
Second.
Peggy. Yes. Luther.
Yes.
Aaron. Yes. Carl.
Yes.
We're going to wait to see you guys here, so we'll just go ahead and start our committee reports. Safety?
Chief's not here.
No.
There was 86 calls for service, made 21 reports, 2 arrests, 13 citations, and 4 warnings issued. All officers completed their yearly firearms qualifications. Officer Stevens' his yearly review. There was a $50 donation from Mr. and Mrs. Wesley to the police department. We are very thankful for that.
Mr. and Mrs. Wesley was that, you know.
It doesn't say.
May I ask who Mr. and Mrs. Denver are?
Phyllis and Burl.
Burl.
Phyllis and Burl Wesley. So thank you very much. Yes, we do appreciate that.
Appreciate it. And Officer Eric Stevens has made a request for a pay increase of 3% for his salary. He's currently at $14 an hour. 3% would bring him up to $14.42. I'd like to entertain a motion to do that.
Motion made.
There a second to that? It's been moved and seconded to grant a 3% increase to Officer Eric Stevens from $14. That 3% would make it $14.42. Roll call, please.
Peggy.
Yes.
Luther.
Yes.
Aaron. Yes. Carl.
Yes. I believe that's all we're
Well,
going
the
to
chief
say.
had
Yeah,
a,
we need to
the
do.
chief had a review also, did he not? Yes, Chief.
Yes, he did.
Is there a movement or
I would like
a
to,
recommendation for that also?
yes, for the 3% increase in that, and I don't have that in front of
Do
me.
you
at this
have
time.
the figures?
Figure it out. I don't have it in front of me.
What's he making right now?
I,
It should be on one of those things. We need to have it on record.
it's a good thing you reminded me.
Yeah.
Who's up for a raise?
It's the police.
Oh.
It's an annual review, and we found
He's at 1926.
1926
So.
plus the 3%, correct?
Yeah, that's what that is. Hold on. Can you get it? You want me to? Oh, she's doing that.
You're right.
$19.84 from $19.26. That's the 3% increase.
What percent?
3%.
Three.
Uh-huh. Is there a motion to grant this?
Second.
Peggy?
Yes.
Luther?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you for reminding me.
No, that's all right. Well, maybe has it from the thing too, you know. It's what tips me off. Under safety, let's see. This is really, well, it has to do with safety because it deals with the levy that will be on the ballot in November. We have discovered that we have some police levy signs here, non-specific, they don't tell how much the levy is, but of course that will be on ballot. But it does say it's to benefit the police department. And we can put those out. They can be put out legally more than a week ago, 60 days ahead of election are the rules here in town for political signs. So we could have done it then. It would be-
So are we going to do something for that?
Well, if you'd like to put them up, it would be my recommendation that we wait till like Monday after Apple Fest to keep the clutter down and to keep them in place
Yeah.
as much as anything. But they're here, we have them, they're out in the garage,
Okay.
and we have quite a few. So if you have neighbors or friends or something that would allow you to put one in their yard too. But I think if we wait until the 24th, right about then, after Apple Fest is over, it might be a good idea.
It's a good time.
Is there a motion to go ahead and do the advertising, starting on the 24th?
Motion made to do that on the 24th,
Second.
advertise for the police.
And it's been moved and seconded?
Yeah.
Peggy?
Yes.
Luther?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes,
Okay.
You said the 24th?
Yeah, I think that's the Monday after, so we can start it and put them out or see if people will allow us to put them in or out someplace and start talking it up. Building. Luther, building.
Buildings look good to me.
Did you check the roof?
I did. I went up and I went on the inside, the south and
Yes.
west-southwest end of the
Yes.
building.
Yes.
That roof needs to be repaired, okay? I went inside, there's no water, no standing water anywhere in the building,
Okay, good.
but on that one end, you can see where it gets damp on that one corner, where the metal's off and gone.
Yeah.
Okay, but the water's not, like I went up there when it was raining, and there's no standing water, but it does need to be fixed.
It does. Would you be able to work on maybe getting a price to fix that?
I can, yes, I
I
can
mean,
do
I'd like
that.
to know how much it would be. We ought to try to
Okay.
fix it maybe before winter.
Get somebody to go up and get an estimate and give us a price?
Yeah.
Okay.
and Yeah, we don't, if that, it's just a repair job, you know, I don't think we need
Yeah,
anything
I'll
else to
take
do.
care of that.
I'd
Not a
appreciate
problem.
that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other building issues?
I didn't see any other building issues. Is that your building down at the other end of town?
No, that's the
Which
township building.
Huh?
Down across from where Dr. On's office
Yes.
was. That's
Township.
belongs to the township.
Okay, well, I check them all anyway.
Well, if you find anything wrong with theirs, I'll tell you.
I check every building I see, you know what I mean?
We'll give you a number if there's anything going on down there.
I'll probably get shot one of these times. I'm always walking around taking pictures and stuff, you know?
Nah. Okay. Streets.
Jimmy and Patrick cleaned out the area underneath the Walnut Street Bridge and greatly improved the water flow.
It did improve it. However, it filled right back up with silt and with gravel and with stones.
There is a problem there that we need to address with
Do
the
you-
state to try to get,
State of Ohio, it's not their problem. They just flat out told us they're not going to do anything about it. It's ours to maintain. And I said, you know, that's fine, but it's only been 2 years. The banks caved in or dropped in a year ago. Yeah. Well, you should have, that was yours to fix. The point I'm trying to make here is they came in, they put in a new bridge, and yeah, we knew that we would know that meant right away, you've got a lot of work to do still. And I said, well, did we get that information? Did somebody say, you'll really need to shore this up, or you ought to put some rock here, you ought to do that? No, they did not. I mean, give us a present and then slap us in the head with it. I mean, we never would have been able to afford to fix it. I mean, it would have been a hardship for us to do that, but it would have been very nice to know that what you ought to do now is do this, because if you don't, but there was none of that. I think my favorite moment of the day was when one of the engineers said, well, you know, that just didn't work the way we hoped it would. So, state has disavowed anything to do up there. They're not going to do anything. Ralph, do you think somebody might come from county engineer's office just to look at it and advise us what might need to be done? Could you try that? Because I don't know where else to go with it.
I don't either, really.
I mean, it's going to choke back up again the way it looks now, and we were very lucky we didn't get all that rain on Saturday after we had it all the rest of the week. We were lucky we got a break that day.
I'll try to do somebody on that.
There's been a letter sent, I think, while we're on the subject of, this is kind of a sanitation and street thing going on here. Did we send a letter to the gentleman who owns the property where the tree is down in the ditch?
Of course.
Yes, there's been a letter sent to him, so hopefully that will get taken care of. I don't know how much that's blocking things, but it can't be helping it. So that's been done.
I have a question it's concerning Sandman Street. That one up there that I come and talk to you about. Anyway, Cardinal Hill. When you go down Cardinal Hill and you get to the very end there, I'm asking this question because I want to know. Yes, when you get to the end, there's the cul-de-sac there. There's no blacktop, no pavement or nothing like there is on Lincoln. And is that part of the village or is that?
Yes, no, it's part of ours. It's ours to take care of. I was
It
up
leads
there
back to
today.
the wells at the DPH.
Yes.
That's not.
That's ours?
It was on our list of things to apply for money for, but we felt that that High Street Bridge, which they keep telling us is in terrible shape,
Okay.
needed to be done first, but it is something we're going to look at. We're
Okay,
gonna
I
see
just
what
was
kind of
curious on where we were on that or who it belonged to.
That was one of the 5 we had on the list, and we prioritized
Yeah.
the High Street.
Right,
But it's in awful shape.
So,
Yeah, and that street's in bad shape.
What we might want to do, before while we still be a little hot, is get up there and fill some of those crater holes
there's
on Cardinal Hill. We can't pave it right now, but we could fill up some of that, I think, and maybe get it to stay in there over the winter. There are some pretty bad spots. I was just.
Well, I wasn't sure whether when you got to the end there, if that belonged to the,
Sorry.
you know, like to the,
where the gate is.
yeah, if it belonged to somebody else or if that was ours or.
Norm, did you have something?
No, I'm sorry. I was in the car all day. I'm just trying to.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm
Mind
listening.
me.
Sorry.
Okay, and we agree with you. We know it needs something, and we're going to look at it, try to look at it next year maybe, and see if what, you know, if we don't want to replace sidewalks and curbs and everything else when you do it, it's a doable, it's more doable, but we'll just have to see what we can accomplish there. Okay. Nothing else with the streets?
I think that's it.
Susan's going to bring a bid this evening, right? For
Yeah.
He's chairing. Lights,
Everything looks fine, but there is one right north of Subway on Washington that is out. I noticed it last night.
you can get the number to the police chief.
It's been out for about 2 hours.
They can call the company and they'll come and fix it. And we may have called on them already, you'll know.
What
but-
one is it?
It's the one right north of Subway
There.
on Washington.
They're like Blevins'
It's not on the list that you did give me this morning.
Okay, so you need to get that one added and make a call. See if they can-
I didn't know whether anybody called on or not, that's why I didn't say.
Yeah.
Finance.
Nothing that I'm aware of.
have a resolution to accept the amounts and rates.
We're doing things there on the street.
Yeah, I do. Wait a minute, we're not quite down the street yet. I don't know how many of you know there was an accident over here on the curb a couple weeks ago. Back on August something. It was on Wednesday. And a lady's car jumped the guardrail over here, went down into, it was a pretty nasty mess. She's okay, wasn't hurt that bad, but our guardrail has to be replaced along there. Her insurance company will pay for the replacement. So we have an estimate, and it's not like we're replacing the whole guardrail all the way around the curve, is it?
I think it's just a damage for it.
Posts and the 6 damaged rails, 11 posts that block, and blocks that are damaged, and type 5 guardrail assembly. Okay, I don't know how many feet that is, but if you get a chance tomorrow, you can take a look at it. It's on this end as you're heading out of town. And this bid is from the Security Fence Company. They're in Dayton. Part of the bid is that they'll do the posts, the new blocks, install the new rails. We'll remove them. And we can attach the end chute, which is still there, to the existing concrete, whatever. The lane will have to be shut down to traffic when they do it, but that's obvious. And
Where's this
then
at now?
across the street out here, on
Oh, right out here.
Woodland.
Oh, okay.
Going out of town,
Okay.
just as the curve starts.
Gotcha.
There about where the big sign is.
Okay.
As you approach the curve.
Yeah.
The bid is for $8,812.
Gee.
We should be in the guardrail business.
That is no joke.
And as I said, our insurance company will pay it.
That's another one of those deals that speaks to it.
Yeah, even though it's on a state highway, it's in our jurisdiction. So is there a motion to accept this bid?
I make a motion we accept the bid of $8,812.
Is there a second?
Peggy?
Yes.
Luther?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jimmy, can you get that started?
Yeah.
We're in the wrong business.
I know we are.
Yeah, we about died.
Huh?
We about died. We're like, are you?
I figured half that much on the high side
Really?
in my mind, but
Well, and if they hear insurance company, it'll probably just go to that's why all of us have to pay. Thank you very much. Okay, now we're ready to go on to finance. There's a resolution, 2018-18, to accept the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorize the necessary tax levies and certify them to the county auditor. And this is just certification of what we currently have as far as tax monies coming in, the amounts and the rates. And we'll have to do it all over again next year, but we do it every year. Do you want me to let you know what we are certifying? Do you want to look at it? I don't think they've got copies of this, do they? General fund, levies, outside the 10 mil, 19,990. Inside the 10 mil, 25,610. General fund, outside the 10 mil, 27,900. Police current expenses, and this is if it's passed in November, $28,460. Police levy, that's already in, this one's already in effect, $24,810. The first one is 2 mil, The second one, which yields less because it didn't change since 1984, is 3 million. That's the total that we're certifying to the county auditor. Now, is there a motion to certify these amounts?
I make a motion to certify those amounts.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there a vote?
Peggy? Yes. Whitmer?
Yes.
Aaron? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. You know, it'd be nice to think that they'll get that fast. Do they only sign it up for something like this place for
No, I just have to fill in there, reserve that to there.
Okay, all right. I'll put it right there right now. I don't have anything else on finance, other than the fact that if this police levy would pass, it would save that much money in our general fund for us to do other things, like paved Cardinal Hill. We could amass the money over a year or 2-year time. Like, I have some other things that we're going to bring up here in a little bit, because we could, right now, there's nothing extra we can add to what we want to do. And there are a lot of things that really need to be done. It's not extravagance. It's just what we can get done. Okay. Sanitation. I know Peggy's got a list if she wants to tell us.
I have got the letter, we've got 23 letters sent out. And that's all I've got to say now, because we have to wait till we get, when we get the papers back from the people. Who gets those papers?
One of them came here, but I put in your box.
These are for the not bad address. You got here, bad address, okay? All right, those two.
And then that letter of appeal came here, that was in your box.
Okay, does the cops, do the police get any of these reports? Well, what happens to the little orange, those little orange things?
It's a whole stack in Mary Jane's box.
Why did we get in Mary Jane's box?
Go ahead, let's finish this part.
Okay, that's all I got to say today.
I'm going to give you a list. I drove through town today. These are places where there's no mowing, that looks like, most of them, to be honest, looks like it had been mowed since the end of May, if then. And I'm going to give this list to you because they need to be, something needs to be done with them. There's one place on High Street that not only has high grass, especially around in their backyard, but that property is...
We're trying to find out where this man lives. He can send him a letter.
The one with the swimming pool?
You said on High
No,
Street?
on High Street, 117 High Street.
Right, yes. We're trying to find out where the owner
Well,
is to send him a letter.
Something needs to be done about that
We're
standing water in that pool.
we're trying to find out where the owner is so we can send a letter to the owner of the property.
You might want to talk to the health department since it's an issue of public health. All that pool water that's not being filtered, not being chlorinated, it's just sitting in that swimming pool. It has been all summer, I think. I haven't gone up and inspected it, but I'd like them to.
Have you seen that swimming pool?
Not up close, no.
I don't know how you can see it up close. It's in a yard is fenced in, wood in there, private fence.
You could see it if you wanted to. I could see it was back there because half the fence, there's a couple of fence things that have fallen off. But I just am wondering, I'm going to give this to you. If you would look at it.
I've already looked at it. We're trying to get the owner's address.
It's not the only place on the list.
Okay.
These are places that the
All right, I'll
grass
take care
needs.
of it.
Thank you, thank you. But what I'm wondering is if maybe the health department couldn't help us get some action on that pool part, since it's a health hazard, the mosquitoes nesting and breeding in there.
I have a question, because I don't know, that's why I'm asking this here. When you have a privacy fence, is your privacy fence allowed to come all the way out to the front of your sidewalk? Like when your house faces the street, can your fence come all the way down to the sidewalk?
And along the sidewalk,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Fences are supposed to be on the property line in most cases, but there are setbacks
Right.
for
And
certain things.
some of the fences aren't allowed to come across the front of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
The-
Well, the reason I'm asking is that one particular house up on Lincoln, I don't think anybody's living in it.
The
It's,
one that's fallen down, that they're cleaning up,
yeah, that fence goes all the way out to the front. That's what I'm asking. Can anybody put up a privacy fence and take it all the way out to the sidewalk?
Like today, they can't. At the time that was erected, they could.
But today they can't.
Today, they can't.
Okay.
How long has it been in existence? They can't do it now. How long has it been since it's been illegal to put it out like they did there the days ago?
And is that a law, is that a law or a
Can't
county?
tell you exactly, Peggy, but I would say probably 5 to 6 years. It's been zoned
Part of the zoning.
where you can't put the
Okay.
fence directly in front of your
So-
house.
it's in the zoning.
Okay.
Fencing, things like that, you'll find a lot of that information when you're in the zoning ordinance.
But that fence
Okay.
has
There's a
been,
copy of it right back here in the.
Okay.
that particular fence has been up for several years, 20,
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
30 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but,
But once that
can't do it
fence
now.
would be taken down, then they wouldn't be able to.
To redo it.
Just like,
Yeah.
yeah, redo it over.
Okay. Thank you, Peggy.
And I have one other.
Yes.
On Cherry going out, Cherry Street, there's that, the Rosses are here,
Yes,
then there's a house here,
yes.
then there's a house here, this house here, then there's a little alleyway there. Okay. I know the people that live in this house here are complaining that this house here is full of mold. I mean, it's falling in, caving in on the inside.
I think that Mary Jane's aware of that, as
To the
far as
west.
I know.
Going west of Terry.
Going out that way. Like you're gonna go to the high school,
Yeah.
going out, just right there, right over at an angle from you. That one's got the vines growing off all over it and all over it.
Alderson's,
Yeah, but that's
On the
west of me.
corner? Isn't
No,
that,
it's the second one
it's the
from the
next
corner.
one,
Yeah.
next one.
where her mother.
Alderson's.
Yeah, Alderson's, we've been
But
dealing
it's,
with that issue.
I guess it's really, really bad. It's full of
For
mold and
several
everything.
years.
Yeah, it's been
And
everywhere.
you can get inside that house, look straight up through the ceiling, you see the sky.
Well, now if you get in it, you'll fall to the bottom.
True.
I'm just saying, you know,
We've been trying, dealing with
have we been trying to do anything with that one, or?
As far as I know, yes, we have, but I don't know where we've gone with it.
The last time we knew anything, that it was, the deed was in the hands of a financial institution in Texas.
And see, that's
They don't-
kills
okay.
it, because they don't care, they're not looking at it.
No.
And we certainly can't bring a lawsuit. I mean, you know, we just can't afford that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm just saying, if
But it's
you're
not-
the people living next door, you know, and you know
I
this house has got full of mold, you
I
know,
understand.
and they have kids and so forth, you know, and it's just a concern.
We've been working on that particular property for a long time.
Okay.
We haven't given up. It's good to bring it up every so often, so to let people know we haven't given it up. We just kind of got to a standstill here.
Thanks, okay. All right.
I don't think planning had anything. Does the board have anything to tell us?
Yes, ma'am. On the South Washington Street project, which that is a piece of pipe that was taken out, and we hope to have another one. It's probably going to be a lot worse than that they have to do yet. But the main line has been put in. It's all completed. They just have to connect it on the north end. It's all slept. They was going to be gone for 2 weeks, which was last week, and also this week. They will be back the 24th, which might be a good thing because they won't be here for Apple
Yeah,
Fest.
might
So
be real good.
that didn't interfere with anything. But they'll be back on the 24th to start work again. We put in the service lines. There's 19 of those to put in, and then that project will be completed.
Good.
And the only other thing that I think is kind of important to us is, in February, we had an assessment done on our electrical use of the water plant and wastewater treatment plant. We just completed reprogramming the water plant before, we run on 2 wells all the time. There's 3 up there total. We run on 2. And the valves were set back in the water plant, cut down 60%. So the valves were pumping deadhead nowhere, with 2 wells running all the time. So now we have reprogrammed our system up there to the computers, and we're only running 1 well, and we have the plant wide open. So the plant is running on 1 well. We're saving $280 a month on electricity. Is what we're going to have. 160 kilowatts a day
Good.
is what we're saving on electricity.
Good.
And you're not alternating the wells at all?
Yes, they set up, they do have to come back and make one more adjustment on it. And if it runs below pressure on 1 well, the second one will kick in, and even the third one if necessary. But they're still going to alternate weekly. So not only are we saving electric, but it's also going to save us some money on wear and tear on the wells and the pumps and the whole works. So,
Well, yeah, 2 of them running and not doing anything. Couldn't have been.
right, we was running 2 for really, and we checked with Susan and everything on this because Moser, the one was there when the water plant was installed. And nobody really seems to know why it was done that way to start with, but that's the way it was done. And everybody's been in agreement, and she was too, that we could try to see what happens. So it costs us about $800 to do the switching, but we're going to make that back in less than 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months, we're gonna have that back.
So it should be a substantial savings as far as our electric.
Good. Good.
Good job, guys, good job.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys have anything else to
The
add.
other thing, you see that piece of water pipe laying there, we have another one probably as bad or worse. We don't keep that around just in case there's going to be someday we're going to have to ask for water increase. And to cover our costs down there. This would be just in case we have customers that are upset about the water increase, they can take a look at some of what we've taken out of the ground. And we were only running the borrowed time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you can see there's actually some very thin areas in that each pipe. That's just one small section. So that's what that's for. We'll keep it here in the facility here until if needed.
Tag it so nobody throws it away,
We're the West on the
you know. But, yeah, we could just have a parade. When people start, here's why we need to increase the water rate. Thank you. Good job, guys. Well, we already did the one resolution because I didn't know whether to do it in finance or do it here. Sanitation ordinance. Aaron, just want to present that.
Okay, so we are looking at the sanitation ordinance. We're looking at breaking it out of the big bulk one we have right now. So, whereas this council is satisfied that there is good cause to regulate litter and weeds in the village, be it ordained by the Village Council of New Paris, State of Ohio. This ordinance supersedes any and all provisions of Ordinance 2012-04, which is the big bulk one, which regulate litter and weed control in the Village of New Paris. So Section 2, no owner of land in this village shall permit weeds to grow thereon to a height in excess of 8 inches in height, or to mature seeds thereon, or fail to cut and destroy such weeds when notified by the village to do so in accordance with Section 3 of this ordinance. Failure to cut or destroy such weeds is hereby declared a nuisance and hazard to the health and safety of the residents of the village. As used in this section, weeds shall be defined as all noxious weeds and all grasses, annual plants, plant growth, vegetation, other than trees or shrubs, provided, however, that such shall not include cultivated flowers and gardens. Noxious weeds as used in this section include thistle, burdock, jimson weed, ragweed, milkweed, mullein, poison ivy, and other vegetation of rank growth. No owner of land in the village shall permit litter or refuse to be placed and not removed from the owner's land when notified by the village to remove the litter. In accordance with the Part B of this section, failure to remove litter is hereby declared a nuisance and a hazard to the health and safety of the residents of the village. So as used in this section, litter includes any garbage, waste, peelings of vegetables or fruits, rubbish, ash cans, bottles, wire, paper, cartons, boxes, parts of automobiles, wagons, furniture, glass, oil of an unsightly or unsanitary nature, or anything else of an unsightly or unsanitary nature. Whoever violates this section is guilty of a minor misdemeanor. Each day the violation continues beyond the 5-day period provided for in the notice to cut weeds, and each day the violation continues beyond the 15-day period provided for in the notice to remove litter as outlined in section 3, each violation shall be deemed a separate offense. So section 3 is, the village sanitation enforcement officer shall cause written notice to be served once each growing season for weeds, April 1st through October 31st of each calendar year, upon the owner of the land in the city, notifying them that the weeds are growing on the land and their care, and directing that such weeds shall be cut within 5 days of such notice, and that such weeds shall be cut thereafter during the growing season with sufficient frequency to prevent such weeds exceeding 8 inches in height or maturing thereon. The village sanitation enforcement officer shall cause written notice to be served upon the owner of the land in the village, notifying the owner of the land to collect and remove the litter within 15 days of such notice. Failure to comply during the period from April 1st through October 31st, each calendar year, the village sanitation enforcement officer may determine that the growth of weeds on lands for which a notice has been issued under section 3 constitutes a hazard and/or a nuisance pursuant to section 2, and that the owner has failed to comply with the notice. Thereupon, the village sanitation enforcement officer may cause the weeds to be cut by use of village employees and equipment or by the hiring of private contractors. The village sanitation enforcement officer may determine that the failure to remove litter on land for which notice has been issued under section 3 of this ordinance constitutes a hazard and/or a nuisance pursuant to section 2 of the ordinance, and that the owner has failed to comply with the notice. Thereon, the village sanitation enforcement officer may order the litter to be removed by use of village employees, equipment, or by hiring a private contractor. Upon completion of the cutting and removal of the weeds and the removal of the litter, the village sanitation enforcement officer shall determine the cost of cutting and removal of the weeds and the removal of the litter, and shall cause an invoice thereon to be mailed to the owner of the land. Such costs shall be included equipment charges, equipment operator charges, equipment transportation charges, administration and supervision charges, removal charges, and contractual charges. The owner shall pay such costs as are charged in accordance with this section to the village within 30 days after the invoice has been mailed to the owner at the address of record in the office of the county treasurer. Such payment shall be credited to the fund from which cost was paid by the village. If the invoice was not paid within 30 days after mailing, the village shall certify the charges for services as provided in this section hereof to the county auditor, together with a proper description of the premise. Such amounts shall be entered upon the tax duplicate, shall be a lien upon such lands from the date of entry, and shall be collected as other taxes and returned to the village for credit to the fund from which the costs were paid. The recovery of its costs by the village pursuant to this section is a remedy in addition to the penalty provided in section 2. The provisions of this chapter shall apply to those areas which are within 75 feet of any property line, which includes a residence or a place of business, or within 25 feet of the edge of the pavement along any road frontage of any lot of parcel which does not include a residence or place of business. In addition to imposing court costs pursuant to ORC 2947-23, the court may impose a fine in the amount of not more than $150 for violating this ordinance, which is classified as a minor misdemeanor. And it shall take effect whenever we approve. So this is going to make life so much easier, because it's only going to require one notice from us as the village. They have 15 days to respond, and if they don't, then we can go on there with village employees, cut it down, clean it up, whatever we need to do, and invoice them. So it'll make life a little bit more easier. We won't have to do 3 notices and all that shebang. Okay. So, is there a motion to approve?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Peggy?
Yes.
Blueger?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Is there a motion to declare an emergency and pass this on a single reading, waiting for 3 review days? Is there a motion to declare an emergency and pass this on a single reading instead of reading it 3 consecutive times at meetings? That way it will go into effect right now. If you don't want to do it that way, it will take 3 votes, 2 more votes, to get it passed. It's
I
up
say
to
put it
you.
into effect now.
So you would vote, you would move to emergency and waive 3 readings.
Yes, I moved to do this emergency code.
Is there a second to that?
I will second that.
Peggy? Yes. Luther?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all. We needed that pulled out, and there might be some other things we need pulled out of the big book ordinance, that ordinance that's all together, because of the way they have to be enforced. That particular ordinance, the one that's in effect now, which won't deal with weeds anymore, we have the new one for that, grass and weeds. But that particular ordinance also contained junk cars. Those require title information and things like that. And so the procedure was all about doing one procedure for everything, and we really don't need to. So we're going to be pulling that one apart. There's no reason why we can't keep a property maintenance manual somewhere and have all the ordinances in there that deal with the maintenance of property. But I don't think it's serving us well to have to go through 14 steps like you have to do now to
Right.
get these things done. I think this part of it should be simpler. The other thing I'd like you to think about while we're talking about this, and it's down here in the new business, but we'll just go ahead and talk about it right now. They keep talking about a sanitation enforcement officer. I'd like you to think about hiring a part-time person. That could work 1 day a week. You wouldn't even have to work all year. It took me 45 minutes today to go get a list this long of lawns that need to be mowed. And they haven't been mowed in 2 months.
Where'd you get this list, did you say?
That, I gave it to you.
Yes.
I drove up and down the streets and
Okay.
looked.
Why did you do that when the sanitation committee is supposed to do that?
Well, I just wanted to know, because I didn't know what he'd sent the letters out for, and I wanted to see.
We did it because of the ordinance, the ordinance was 215. It was the last ordinance that went out before this one, and that's what Mary Jane and I went by, that ordinance. So that's what we're.
Of course you did. I'm just saying those were places that I looked at today that need to be maintained. They need mowing, most of them. And I just threw that High Street on there because it not only needs to be mowed, but that health hazard of that neglected stagnant pool is worrying me, and it's worrying the people who live down there.
You're talking about the one on High Street,
I am.
not on Hutton Street.
Is it High or Hutton? It says on the list, and I'll tell you the truth, I don't know. If it's Hutton, it might be.
That's the one right there on Spring.
I think it's High Street, but it says, it's 123, I think is the number. 117 is the number. 117 High.
Well, I understand what you're saying, because I do the same thing you're doing, or you did. I drive around this town all the time, and I'm looking at houses, and I'm taking pictures, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, you know what? Why is it so hard for somebody, if you can't afford to fix your house up, that's one thing, and if you can't afford to do this, it's another thing, but people can be clean. People can be neat. You don't have to let your place be trashy.
Well, that's moral. Now you're talking about moral.
Whatever, it doesn't
We're
matter.
talking about moral.
Moral what?
Don't you know what the word means?
I do know what moral means.
What does it mean?
If you have morals or not, whether you care or anything like that.
That's right.
Well, if you don't care,
You don't
then that's what this ordinance here is going to come into effect and do something about it.
Well, I just think this will help us out. It'll make it easier to enforce. I still think we probably want to do things. We do have to go to court, and it's documented that way. But I do want to know if we think that under the supervision of the sanitation committee here on the council, we could hire somebody. A lot of that will depend on whether we get this, which I don't think it costs us that much, but I could be way off. But whether or not we get this police levy passed. We have the money now to
If
do
you're going to
it.
have any committee, like the sanitation committee.
Yes.
And you're the sanitation committee, is working to do their job that they have been appointed to do.
Yes.
And then other people are doing their job.
I don't think they're doing their job, I think they're just trying to help.
Well, then I think we're doing, that's why you have a committee, to do the job. You don't, the mayor gets the committees organized to do the
Yeah.
job they're supposed to do.
But that's just like me being on the street department. If you come to me and you said, Luke, I saw this and I saw this on the street, you know, I would take everything you said seriously, you know what I mean? And then I would thank you for pointing something out to me that maybe I overlooked or didn't see. That's all I'm saying here.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Is we're all supposed to work together.
Have you checked on that list? You may have done already a lot of it.
What's
On
that?
The list I gave you may already be
I
half
will
done.
I'll go
You know.
through it in my time, yes.
Thank you. Okay, done that. Park, is there anything about the park going on, guys?
There's stuff going on, but I have no idea what it is. I'm honest.
Okay,
What did you just say, Ralph?
there's stuff going on, but he doesn't know what it is.
Somebody's up there putting electricity in the shelters.
I've seen that, I thought you did that.
That's the chamber, that's the chamber.
Those things are going on, but we have no idea.
Well, they were gonna do it last year, and I think we approved it, and thought it was a good idea last year.
Do
But
they
no,
have-
I didn't realize they were doing it now.
Are they supposed to know all of somebody before they do that?
Well, it'd be nice to know that that's their plan, so we know what's
I mean,
going
you know what I'm
on.
saying?
I know what you're saying, I think they're losing control of our park, you know?
Yeah. I
Are
do
they
too.
paying that bill now? Because is that hardwired? Like, is there a switch we
It's
can?
hardwired,
It's hardwired, so
it's
that's
got
why it's
circuit
on.
breakers,
And their dusk to dawn lights,
and
right?
as far as I know, we're paying the bill on the electricity used when the lights come on.
Are we paying anything?
Well,
Oh,
they're
well,
gonna,
Because I
they
thought that was
just
for
finished it.
the way they're supposed to pay
We
it
haven't got a bill
is
for it.
the period of time that they
Right,
have.
same time.
I'll let you know
Yeah.
if it's on weekend.
But Ralph's got a good point. I mean, they should be coming to the
They
council
really
or
need to
somebody,
let us
shouldn't
know.
they?
It's like I said, they were gonna electrify one of those shelters, that big one down there,
Yeah.
last year, and then they didn't do it. And I don't know if they just didn't have money, didn't have time, whatever happened, but we did approve it last year, maybe they thought they didn't need to come back to us.
Well, they need to.
Well, I agree, yes, we'd like to know what's going on.
To me, part of the problem is when they create things that's gonna cost taxpayers money to pay for that electricity that's
Yes.
being used for a nightlight on a yearly basis, and then we ought to know it. Council ought to be able to prove that. You know?
The things they have up there right now are locked out after they are used at Apple Fest, I think.
Well,
So we can shut that all down.
they've been on for several nights.
Yeah.
Just operating
Just right now.
for no apparent reason.
Okay.
And also, I don't understand why, if we have a dusk to dawn curfew on that, and they're
Why
not
they're
supposed
on
to
at
be there
dark.
after dark.
Yeah.
Why are they even on anyway?
Yeah, I agree, I agree.
And we're paying a bill for the electricity while it's being on.
Maybe we're not.
Well, maybe we're not, I don't know. And I don't know how
Say
it's
we
metered,
don't have
whether
to be.
whether each one of those
We
is
pay
metered
for the
separately.
security light that's up there, the one pole to pole
Well, I
light.
think we asked them to leave that going, so that
Right.
we, and that we would pay for it, so
But
that we might.
But if they're gonna go into the shelters and do all of this stuff, then
I honestly feel
they should
like
be
that-
down here talking to somebody about, hey, is this okay if we go ahead and do this?
I agree, I mean, I'm tickled to death that
You know, that-
that they're doing what they're doing or coming forward with the money and the manpower to do what they're doing, but they're not communicating with the council at
No,
all.
they're not.
No.
I had no idea.
And this is something I don't care too much about.
No, I don't think that's a good
What's
idea.
the park committee gonna do about it?
We're
Well,
going
right
to,
now, once it's already been installed, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. But hopefully, in the near future, that we can
Well, I
get the
think
chamber
that we need to make
to
the
work
effort
with
to
the
talk to
council
them.
Yeah,
and let
Yes.
somebody know, or the mayor, what their proposals are.
Well,
And
it doesn't need to be me. It needs, they need to come to this body. I mean, that Apple Fest, they know when it is every year. Plenty of time to come down here and talk. And that's what they need to be doing. I agree.
did anybody say anything to you? No?
Okay.
All right.
The only other thing about the park is that they're working up there to get it mowed this week. The apples on the street, I know those things are going on, so that's the only other thing I had. Is there any unfinished business? beautification plan for Preble County is ready for public comment. It's available online. I have the website here where you can go and read it for our county and make any comment that's relevant. If you think something's been left out of it that we need to be concerned about here in Preble County, here in New Paris, they didn't have our streams, our Shanks Ditch and this Rocky Fork named, you know, so I told them, these are the names of the waterways that run through here. We are the only town and the only area really in Preble County that is in the Whitewater River watershed. Everybody else is in the Great Grand River. We're the only, and it's a little part, and they just don't have the information about us. So I have tried to educate them about where we are, what these things are. But I have the website. I will give it to you. It's, and if you want to write it down, write it down. If not, you can get it afterwards. consultrsa.com. consultrsa.com. That page, go to the home page of that website, and down at the bottom, there's Wood County and several counties. Preble counties is listed. You can go on there and pick the area of the report that you want to look at. Well, you can look at all of it, of course, but it's divided into an opening thing and a mitigation things and possible scenarios and all this. So you can look at it that way, and there's a place to make comment right there online. If you have no access to the internet, you can go to the EMA office, the Emergency Management Agency office, down on 127 North there, just south of 40. And he has paper copy in there. You feel free to go in there. You can write your comments, and he'll transmit them to, but it's available for public comment until the end of the month, I believe. So, and I would appreciate if you'd all take a look at it, because I was the only one from here that attended, and I don't want to be leaving something out. I think the township people went. If you need that again, I've got it written down right here. RSA. Now. Okay. All right. In new business, we've already talked about a sanitation inspector, a sanitation enforcement officer that calls for in that. The one we have now, the big book, the big heavy ordinance that we are using at this time, before this, also said a sanitation officer, enforcement officer, or inspector needed to be appointed. Now, Mary Jane has taken on that herself. I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be nice to have somebody to get out, take all those pictures, take a look around, bring it to the sanitation committee for review, and then get it going that way.
Yeah, you know how many pictures we've taken this year?
I can't imagine.
You
I'm
can't
sure there's a lot.
imagine is right, you can. Why do you have to have anything other than a sanitation committee?
She's trying to make life a little easier for you.
What's that?
If there's one individual who is specifically going around the town taking pictures and they're coming to you, you don't have to do that as often. So all you have to do is mail them the notice. And then you have 15 days. They have 15 days.
Yeah, I understand.
Right, so you're not making as many trips around town and trying to do the inspections and going to the property.
All right, and we're gonna have one, and what are we gonna pay this person?
Well, I don't know. I'm asking if it's a possibility. And it might well depend on whether we get this levy passed for police services. You know, I don't, it would be a part-time thing. It's just something I threw out there for you to think about.
Do you think we could do
Well, I
this?
think we should table it.
I don't know. Oh, we're not going to vote on it tonight. I want you to think about it. It's not anything I'm expecting to vote on this evening. Susan, why don't you come on up?
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, I was gonna say, you're still got some stuff going on.
No,
Keep
we're
it ready,
fine.
and I'll
I'm
move
just
it
trying to
the bottom.
get, we just got a couple of little things
I heard that. Basically, it's for $31,057.36. It's for approximately 280 feet of water line out of the 1,056. As you know, they are not here this week. They will be back next week. They're printing, is my understanding. So this is basically their first pay request, and I would need your approval of that. And right here's the amount. Do you guys have any comments or concerns? That you'd like to bring
I think they're doing a pretty good job.
Did a great job.
I just wanted to, before
Time
they,
schedule working out great, the access and everything, everything's going great.
just before you approve anything, I wanted to make sure that, you guys are okay. If you had any concerns, then we could address them accordingly.
Board approves the work that's been done to date and the amount eligible to pay up to this point that they're asking for is $31,057.36.
Yes, the total.
Is there a motion to go ahead and approve that payment?
Motion made. Second.
Peggy?
Yes.
Luther?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Where it says.
Okay.
And then I will get the OWDA request to you that you'll need to sign. We'll send that in. They'll draw the money down to you, and then you can either pay it now and reimburse yourself, or you can wait till you get the money and then pay the check. So that's totally up to you as to how you handle that. Okay? Okay, the next thing, we're gonna go ahead if you don't care. Next thing I want to talk about briefly is the park. I know you guys just brought that up. And as you know, the village was awarded $200,000 through the capital bill, which is a bill that's passed by the Ohio Congress every 2 years, where they set aside capital funds for projects. And we were fortunate enough to receive $200,000 towards the park project, which is the demolition of that building and the installation of a splash pad type piece of park equipment. You've probably seen them lately. They're kind of the up and coming thing, because you don't have to have a lifeguard and that type of thing, and they're a lot cheaper to operate as far as the community is concerned versus a pool. With that being the case, there is a grant program coming up through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. The application is due November the 15th. It's called the Land and Water Conservation Fund. It's federal dollars passed down by the National Park Service to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and they administer this grant, and they take applications every 2 years. So they'll take applications in 18 for funds in 19. It's a 50-50 grant, which means for every dollar you want, you have to have a dollar. We can use that $200,000 that you have as your match. So we could ask for $200,000. The minimum you can ask for is $50,000, and the most you can ask for is $500,000. So obviously, we're well within that. If you're interested in doing that, I can bring a resolution for you to pass to your meeting next month in October. We would submit the application, and they would score it, and we'd kind of see, if we were lucky enough to be funded, and then we could combine all of that money together to try to move the park forward as far as demolition of the building.
This is money that's going to go toward the park?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's a park grant.
Okay.
So basically, what would happen is then we would put the money together. Originally, we had a cost of about $250,000 to mitigate the asbestos and the other items within there that need to be removed that were environmental hazards. We had an estimate of around $100,000 for the demolition of the site and burial there. So you're not paying to truck it off. We just dig a hole and put it in there. We could use it in the future for parking areas. It'd be difficult to build a building on it. But there's lots of other, areas on that ground up there that we could always build a community building or something like that in the future. And then we would put the splash pad kind of like right out in front of where the building is now, close to where the water line comes into the building, so we don't have to do a lot of extra work to put in a new water line and run that around. We can try to utilize what's already there. So basically, then that kind of gets us to about 350,000 with the splash parks. We're probably talking, at least 50,000 anyway. And so, if we go in at 400, we're probably pretty close to what we need. If there's some money that, say, the chamber is going to put forward or somebody's donating, I know there's a group in town, I think, that may be doing some fundraising
There
for
have
the
been
park.
some fundraisers,
If they have, let's just say, $15,000, we could ask for 215 and use that 15 as match, or as a way to just get a little more money, as much as possible to facilitate other things up there. If you wanted some playground equipment or whatever, we could, add some things like that to it. The important thing is that we have, after we take the building down, we put something there that's an outdoor recreational facility. The splash pad, playground equipment, because just coming in and doing the building, they're not really interested in that, because they don't see you developing anything, and they just don't want to put their money in tearing a building down. That's just not what they want to do. But if we do it in conjunction with a splash pad or park equipment, then they're a lot more conducive to trying to help.
Your question?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
I got a question, not from the board, but just as a citizen and
Sure.
resident.
Absolutely.
Has anybody been in the old school to do the actual physical inspection for the asbestos abatement?
That was already done.
I say, I was just asking, we got an estimate where I work,
Huh?
building since 1908.
Yeah.
The original estimate was 800,000 and it came in at 80,000.
Came in at
After they
80?
went in and
Woo!
it wasn't what they thought.
Yeah, we did. There was a company called Environmental Assessment Services out of Middletown that came in before we ever started this to try to figure out what kind of dollars are we really
Yeah,
talking
you have to
about.
know kind of where you're heading.
Right. And so they did a lot of testing. They sent a lot of samples out of all the different, the ceilings, the walls, the floor tiles, things like that, wrapped area around
That's
pipes.
all I was curious. They didn't like a drive-by estimate on us, so I was
Yeah.
hoping the village would be
Yeah.
in the same position.
No, they actually went in, they did tests, they found some old ballasts and some things like that were put into a category of removals. So that's kind of where we came up with the number as far as that's concerned. But that's a great question, because that's very important. And then the demolition costs came from some demolition contractors I knew that Mr. Winkle had contacted when he was mayor. So I guess the question I have for you is, are you interested in pursuing such a grant to try to come up with the money to do, all of it? Because with the 200,000, we've got a piece, but we're really not all in, so to speak.
I say, yeah, please say, Frank.
I will tell you that there is an amount in estate tax that we have been holding on to in hopes of finding matching funds to use for this. As far as I know, it's 34,000. I think we could get up to 250 is what I said. I think we could. And that would certainly put us in a good position.
There's some case floating around out there too
That if we have a plan and if we present it, we might be able to get a hold of it. You're right.
Well, I know when we had talked before too, at that time, the council that was in place had even said, if we have to go borrow a little bit of money to make this happen, to fill the gap, they felt it was well worth, the change to the community of that property. Now, I'm not saying that you guys feel that way, and it may be something that we go after a certain amount, say 250, and then hopefully we can come up with that whole 50, but if you're 5,000 short and you have to kick in 5,000, well, that's not so bad out of a $500,000 project.
it's not.
So, but we need to and we don't need to decide this today, but we kind of need to figure out what is that number. So if it's another 50,000 to add with the 200, so we can add, we can go after 250. That's kind of what I need to know. So if you want to, check into that and then let me know, that's fine. The other thing, there is an EPA grant that's out there that does brownfield. When I've talked with the EPA about it before, you had to have a commercial end user. And so the grant really wouldn't work for you because you're not selling the property to put a business on it. You're keeping it for a park. I know in the past there's been loan money for that, so it might be something if you were short, we could go after some loan money with it. That's not ideally what I'd like to do. I'd rather try to go after this grant money first, and then if something happens and we need a loan, try to use that maybe as a gap. The OWDA, which is the agency that we're using for the water line, they actually do have some brownfield loan money too that you could get in 60 days as a gap. So there's some things out there. I'll go back and look with the EPA in regards to their grant fund. I mean, things change, and I would be happy to go talk with them again, just to be sure that it doesn't exist now that we kind of have this $200,000 to work with. But I would be happy to do that for you and see if there's anything that's changed. But I did go to a brownfield conference and talked with the EPA people directly and told them your situation, and they basically said we can give you a loan. So, but, things change, and I'm more than happy to go and talk with them again. So, if you think you'd be interested, I'll bring you a resolution next month. I'll send it to Jacob so he can take a peek at it before your meeting, just out of courtesy, because I know he likes that. And then we can talk about it. I think it's a great opportunity. It only comes every other year. So, and you have until June 30th of 2020 to spend your $200,000. So we've got some time, to try and find some things to go with it, but I don't want to burn that up by, not moving forward with some things and try and see what we can make happen.
So the feeling of council that we should attempt to get this grant money.
I say we should.
Absolutely.
Would you move so that we ask Susan to bring us the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
I second.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
And in the meantime, see what we can do.
Yes, thank you.
Because
You do that and I'll review it. That would be wonderful. Okay. The next thing I have has to do with the Spring Street Bridge. We're in the process of working with the EPA on their feasibility study that they require and the design piece. And one of the things that we need to do are some soil borings. And that has to do with looking at the soils underneath where the bridge is going to go to see what their bearing weight is. So that what we build on here, we know the soil can bear that weight, exactly. And if we need to do any type of footings or things like that, we need in order for the bridge to be stable. So we got two costs. One is from CBC Engineers out of Dayton or Centerville, and their cost is $5,500. It will be two 40-foot borings. One will be in the roadway, one of them will be off the roadway, kind of, over towards where the abutments are. The other price is from Bowser Warner of Dayton, and they're proposing the same thing, two 40-foot borings, and their price is $12,700. The only difference between, and I don't really understand why there's that much difference, the only difference I saw between the two costs were with the CBC proposal, the village needs to provide the traffic control while they're out there doing their borings, which will probably be done in a day. So you may have to put up some road closed signs or what have you.
I think for $7,000.
Yeah. So with the other one, they're providing it. So, and I'm not sure how long, it could be, I don't know how long it takes for them to do this. So, it could be 2 or 3 days by the time they come in to get set up. So it'd just be a matter of Jimmy probably have to go out there and put the barricades up, take it down, whatever, down at the end, and then, down at Spring and Cleaner or Deep Rico, and then at the other end at,
We just have to have signs that close that bridge.
Yeah,
Right, because that way everybody still would have access to
Right.
their homes.
Yeah, they can still go around and get to their homes on
Right.
both sides, it's just you can't go through for a few days. And you could put by you and then, kind of coordinate that. So, I've worked with either company. I don't have, any problem with either one. It could be a timing thing as far as how busy they are. So, I guess at this point, I just need you to accept what I would consider the lower quote, which is CBC Engineers out of Centerville for $5,500.
Is there a motion to accept the $5,500 cost for CBC to drill, take the borings?
Motion made.
I'll second.
Peggy,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Then the last thing I have has to do with the East Cherry Street reconstruction project. And as you probably know, we took bids last week on Monday at the Commissioner's office. If you remember, the project has CDBG money in it, village money, and OPWC money. It was 2 phases. We kind of finally got it funded so we could put it all together. It's East Cherry Street from Washington Street all the way down to where the paving is, where the county paved, down the county canyon and paved just past the water plant. So the project is all of that. It's new storm sewer, new curb and gutter, new sidewalk, and then they will come in and basically mill off all of that old pavement and put 3 inches of brand new pavement on. So I'm going to give you the bid, kind of a bid analysis that we've done. So, and we'll talk about it. Surprisingly, we got 8 bids, which I was just floored. I was hoping for 3 or 4, so getting 8 was fantastic. We had 9 plan orders, we got 8 bids. The engineer's estimate was $535,000. The lowest bid was $515,000, and the highest bid was $576,000. So there was a big, not a real big range, and I was very happy with them. The low bid was received from M&T Excavating out of Bradford, Ohio, with a bid of $515,458.98. Again, our estimate was $535,000, so we're below that. In review of their bid package, there were numerous concerns noted. They did have a bid calculation error, which actually decreased their bid by $510. So the $515,458 is with that deduction.
That's already been deducted.
Yes.
Thank you.
The bid guarantee and contract bond that they submitted was not signed by the principal. So the actual company did not sign their bond, so therefore I don't believe it's valid. The previous experience noted in their qualification statement was primarily site development work, where they did site work with a building contractor. They only had 2 projects that were actually community-related projects, and they were rather small in size. They were more in the $100,000 to $200,000 range, not $500,000, which was a little bit of concern to me about their ability to handle traffic control and numerous subcontractors on this project. They reviewed their balance sheet that they were provided with their bid dated 12/31/17. Their total bank account showed a negative balance of $68,000, although there were 2 other uncategorized assets that totaled over $1.5 million, but they weren't, it didn't state what they were. Just said other assets. So that was rather strange to me, because I've never seen that on a balance sheet before. So I had a little bit of question about their financial ability. There were several documents missing from their bid packet. There was no list of interested parties. There was no certificate of compliance with the ORC, which is a form required by the county. And there was also no statement of indemnification, which was also required by the county. We have worked with this company as a subcontractor to a general contractor on a water plant project in West Mansfield, Ohio. And we basically had to remove them from the job because their work was not satisfactory. I also have another client that is a community client, which was one of the 2 that they had on their qualification statement, and they did a sidewalk project and they were not happy with them. So With that being the case, I looked at the second low bidder, which was Per Grade Excavation and Demolition of Eaton. Their bid was $526,352.44. There were no discrepancies found in their bid, and all the required documents were, intact with what they submitted. Per Grade did do the previous work in the village on Washington and Main Streets in 2013, which went from there at the red front to East Cherry Street, and then that part from Main Street that goes down to, I always get
High Street.
High Street, thank you. And I think that was out in front of your property.
Correct.
So you might have a comment there. Since then, we did just finish a project with them this past summer in the village of Gratis, and they completed the work on time down there. The village was satisfied with that, and it was new curb gutter, sidewalk, and storm sewer along with a water line. They did not do any paving other than trench patching because ODOT's going to come in and do that. So it'd be kind of similar to what we did out here on West Cherry.
Yeah.
So yes. So if we look at your current budget, which is on page 2, basically the OPWC grant's $235,000. Your match to that was $80,600. The CDBG grant's $300,000, and the match to that was $35,000, for a total funds of $650,600. The engineering contract, $68,900, and then there's $20,000 of county grant administration that the county's keeping. With that being the case, remaining funds for construction is $561,700. With the bid from Per Grade, we're at $526,352.44, which leaves contingency funds of $35,347.56. Their bid also did include a line item for rock excavation, and you can see that on your bid breakdown. And they have rock excavation at $125 a cubic yard. We put 50 cubic yards in there just as a contingency quantity, just like we did on the water line project, because there has been rock found in this town, and it's a lot easier to deal with that up front than after the fact. Should they not have any rock or find any rock, there would be $6,250 that would come off of their contract as a change order at the end as a removal. So that would kind of stand up there too, just, as, I'm not saying we won't use it, but you just never know. Based on the project's budget shown above, we recommend awarding the project to Per Grade Excavation and Demolition, which still allows there to be contingency funds for unforeseen conditions, just simply because of the issues, the problems with M&T, and the fact that we've had some problems with them. And I don't think $10,000 is a very big number on this size of a project to take a chance on somebody that you may not be happy with. So what questions does anybody have? You guys have any comments about Per Grade? I think there was a little bit of a problem with some concrete, but if I remember right, they
They
came
took
back
care of
and
it.
took care of it.
Yeah, I
No
think it
questions
was.
asked.
Right.
And that was 5 years ago, and they were still growing then. They still had some growing pains going on, but I felt like Daryl always, if they did something that wasn't right, he fixed it.
And he was there himself, too.
So, with that being the case, I feel like, they work well with communities, and they do the give and take, and if they mess something up, they'll come back and fix it. So, what questions do you guys have?
I was satisfied with Per Grade.
Well, and like, as Susan mentioned, when there were problems, they fixed them.
And they were going through some growing pains there, and I know with the work that we just did with them in Gratis, they were happy with them, if there was some little things that, somebody didn't like, they came back and fixed them, and, it was just, I guess I just feel like as to go with somebody we've had problems with, another client of ours has had a problem with, I just don't want to get into a big fight, because then it costs everybody money at that point. And I don't think, again, $10,000 is worth it.
It could wind up costing us a lot more than that.
Right, and, it's not like we don't have some contingency money, and based on that contingency money, you don't use it, it goes back. So, I mean, I'd rather use it to do some more sidewalk down the side streets or figure out something to do with it, you know, and I feel comfortable that, you know, for the work that they're gonna do, once they get the storm sewer in, that's the biggest piece I see where we're gonna get any kind of unforeseen. And then after that, you know, the curb gutter sidewalk, that's all pretty much surface stuff, that doesn't usually create issues. So, so at this point, what I need from you is I need you to pass a motion as to who you want to recommend award of this project to the commissioners, because they will actually award the project because of their CDBG money. And so because of that, they are actually what's considered the contracting authority. So they kind of award the project. You're still the owner. You still have to say, you know, it's a three-party contract, but they actually do the award. So they would do that on Wednesday at their session Wednesday morning, if you're ready to do something. The end date for this is July 31st, so you know, it's possible they could come in this fall, maybe do the storm sewer piece, let it sit and settle over the winter, you know, come in the spring and do the rest of it. I don't know for sure what their schedule would be, but I can think about something.
I don't want it to get so much worse that people can't even drive up through there during the winter. My biggest fear is to get in the middle of something and then not be able to. I mean, it's so bad now.
And if you want to tell them, if you can't do it all this fall, don't do any of it, we want you to wait and come in the spring, that's
And I
okay.
don't know,
They'll be
guys,
fine
that's
with
something
that.
I'd like you to think about.
They'll be fine with that.
I mean, I'd like to see it done immediately, but we're getting to the time of the year that, you know, if they can guarantee they can do it, which they can't, nobody could. The weather is bad.
I'll have to talk to them. I mean, it's been a rough construction season because it's just been so much
All
rain.
the rain.
But I can talk with them about it and say it's either this or this. Or if the road's in bad enough shape that throwing another trench in there isn't really gonna matter, then that's okay too. But, you know, it will have, you know, it'll be a gravel trench, you know, you will have to plow it that way, you know, which they will have to, they would have
on that hill.
they would have to maintain it, meaning they would have to continue to put stone in it all winter long. You know, that would be their responsibility, not yours.
Well,
We don't have to decide that right now.
we don't.
No.
Let's at least look at making a motion to recommend to the county commissioners what bid you wish to accept.
Well, were we just talking about this pro-grade excavation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let me be sure.
I'll make a motion that we accept the pro-grade bid.
I'll second it.
Peggy? Yes. Luther?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Okay. I will pass that on to the commissioners, and then we'll move forward with that process. And I'll talk with Daryl and kind of see what he's thinking about time-wise. And, you know, if it would be something that he's thinking about doing the whole thing this fall yet, I will let you know. I doubt it.
So happy.
I doubt it, but, you know, I don't know what his schedule is, so.
I know it is.
I don't know what his schedule is, but I'm happy with the numbers, so
Yes.
they're where
Yes.
we need them to be.
Yeah.
I assume Vector's all done.
As far as I know, I haven't talked to him, have you?
I think they're done. Well, I do know they're coming back in to do Washington Street.
Right,
At some
as
point.
far as Cherry's
But
concerned.
I think Cherry's done.
But I didn't realize they could put both sides in, you know, both.
They put it down each side, yeah.
I would venture to say they'll probably wait till the water line contractor gets out of Washington Street, and then they'll probably come in because they know, and I told them, you know, ODOT's paving Washington Street, and after that, you will only be given a street opening permit for any Washington Street, and that's it. So, if you want to do something, get in there and do that. And we kind of talked to them about that when we talked about Cherry, so I know they're aware of that.
Thanks, Susan, for all your work.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Susan. You're welcome.
Other new business, trick or treat night. I know Eaton is having theirs on the 30th, El Rayo's is the 31st of October. Richmond hasn't set theirs yet, I don't think. We haven't heard from them. But, I mean, if you want to go ahead and set it, I don't think it'd kill us.
Don't we usually do it on the 31st, the last day of the month? For the most part, don't we usually do
I
that?
think that's what we did last year.
Yeah, usually we do it on the same night that Richmond does theirs.
But we don't know what that is yet. And we can wait a couple more weeks till our October meeting and then see if they've set it. But we meet right on the 1st of October.
31st is a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Keep it in mind. We can wait and try to do it, but I don't think theirs will be set by the 1st of October. If they're not going to do the October meeting, it'll be surprising if we know it ahead of time.
Last year they said it and then they changed it halfway through.
Mandy also has UAN training. It's required on the 11th of October. The cost was $100, and we paid that. And so we don't need to vote to do it because it's required by the state that she has to have it. So that's going to be going off, as she will have the office closed on the 11th. I have communicated about as many things as I want to do this evening, I think. Has anyone else got anything, any other business? Something we've overlooked or not thought about, or we good to go? Well, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will make that motion.
Second.